Wow, the Brooklyn Nets actually did it. They traded Kyrie Irving to the Dallas Mavericks for Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, and an unprotected 2029 first-round pick and second-round picks in 2027 and 2029. And many of you might be surprised about what we're about to say next. Maybe, just maybe, the Brooklyn Nets won this trade. We'll explain. So we all know Kyrie comes with his fair share of problems off the court, and he's proven time and time again that he's unreliable, not really that dependable. And that's honestly what has us worried about pairing him up with Luka. And to make this clear, no one is doubting his skill on the basketball court. But if this goes south, it could change Luka Doncic's entire future in Dallas. But let us explain further how Brooklyn may have won this trade. For one, they got rid of an unreliable player who's already had a few issues with the front office in the past, and they picked up very solid players in Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith. Spencer is no Kyrie, but he is averaging 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists while shooting 45% from the field, 40% from 3 on 6 attempts, and 82% from the free throw line. So he's been absolutely balling out this season. And not to mention, he's averaging 25 points over his last 7 games. He's absolutely on a hot streak right now. And one of his most underappreciated qualities is his leadership. And although Luka was clearly the best player on the Mavericks, Spencer was still their best veteran leader. His IQ and unselfishness will fit perfectly with this Brooklyn roster. And don't forget, the Brooklyn Nets are currently second in the NBA in three-point percentage. And so now you add a great decision maker and playmaker who still managed to average over 5 assists with Luka Doncic being very ball dominant. That's pretty impressive, because Luka is 4th in the NBA in touches per game, which means Dinwiddie rarely makes mistakes when the ball's in his hands. And he'll fit right in with the Nets' solid shooting. He's top 30 in pull-up shooting threes, shooting 37% on a little over 3 attempts per game. And although he doesn't shoot a lot of catch-and-shoot threes, he still shot over 44% on them, on about 2.9 attempts per game. And you just know he's going to get way more catch-and-shoot opportunities playing alongside Kevin Durant, who needs to be double-teamed every single night. And Dinwiddie's known to hit big-time shots, which is what the Nets need with the playoffs slowly approaching. Plus, he can create his own shot. Obviously, not at the level Kyrie can, but like we mentioned, he's averaging 25 points through his last 7 games. So the man can get a bucket. And on the defensive end, while he's far from great, he is an upgrade from Kyrie on that end of the floor. He's 6'5", weighing about 215 pounds. So he at least has good size on defense, and he can match up better than Kyrie normally would. Now, let's talk about reason number 2 why the Brooklyn Nets may have won this trade: Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, we know many of you probably think he's a bum or he's not that valuable, but you couldn't be more wrong. Yeah, he's averaging only 9 points and 4 rebounds, but on the offensive end, he provides great floor spacing. He's shooting over 40% from 3 over his last 7 games. And not only that, but he is an elite catch-and-shoot threat this season, and he's ranked 15th in the NBA in catch-and-shoot threes, shooting just over 36% on 5 attempts per game. And other than Tim Hardaway Jr., Finney-Smith was the best shooter on the Mavericks roster. Smith and Dinwiddie's ability to make threes is crucial for the Nets' success, because obviously now the Nets only have one superstar in KD, and in order for them to be title contenders, they need to be lights out from 3. And picking up these two definitely helps. And now, here are all the deep snipers on the Nets roster. Seth Curry, who's shooting 42% from 3. Joe Harris, who's shooting nearly 40% from 3. Patty Mills, who's shooting 39% from 3. And Royce O'Neal, who's shooting 40% from 3. And of course, Ben Simmons, who's shooting amazing this season. Okay, that one was obviously a joke. But all joking aside, you now add Spencer and Dorian Finney-Smith to that offense, and you have a ridiculously dangerous 3-point shooting team. On the defensive end is where Dorian Finney-Smith will be most valuable. He's one of the best lockdown defenders in the league, and he has been for at least a few seasons now. A defense of Ben Simmons, Royce O'Neal, Nick Claxton, and now Finney-Smith is absolutely scary. The Nets were already ranked 13th in defensive rating and 7th in points allowed in the paint, along with leading the NBA in blocks per game. So they have elite paint defense, and now they add an elite wing defender. So for all of the reasons we mentioned, this trade is far from one-sided. But how do the Nets compare to other Eastern Conference teams like the Celtics, Bucks, 76ers, and Cavaliers? Well, the Nets can shoot, defend, move the ball, and shoot free throws, along with having an MVP candidate, Kevin Durant. So they actually compete really well. And remember, Luka almost went to the NBA Finals last year while being the only star on the roster, and Giannis beat the Nets in the playoffs a couple of seasons ago without Chris Middleton, so it is definitely possible for them to still be title contenders. But now we gotta talk about the other half of the trade. Kyrie and Luka teaming up is actually insane to think about. We all know what Luka is able to do without a second star, so now you add Kyrie freaking Irving to the equation, you've got something special in Dallas. And the most important thing about this move is we think the Dallas Mavericks culture will be great for Kyrie as well. It's rare that you hear any negative things about the organization from top to bottom. And on the court, Luka had no problem letting Spencer Dinwiddie run the offense sometimes, or deferring to him in big moments. So it won't be any different with former NBA champ Kyrie Irving. And we've of course seen Irving play alongside many stars, KD, LeBron, James Harden, and there were never really major chemistry issues. He's pretty unselfish and only focuses on winning basketball games and making the right plays. The Mavericks now have two of the most clutch players in the NBA on one team. And not only that, but they are arguably the most skilled duo in the NBA right now. Irving's averaging 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 steal while shooting 37% from 3, 48% from the field, and 88% from the free throw line. And he's even averaging 29 points and 7 assists over his last 7 games. He's 11th in the NBA in pull-up shooting threes, and Luka Doncic is number 2 on that list. But the thing that excites fans the most while frustrating NBA defenses is the fact that both Luka and Kyrie are top 4 in isolation points per game, with Luka being number 1. And honestly, if Kyrie played more games, he and Luka would statistically be the 2 best isolation scorers in the NBA. We all know Luka is a one-on-one nightmare, and that's why he's averaging 33 points. He's truly unstoppable, and we don't think there is one defender in the entire NBA who can consistently stop him one-on-one. Luka is so skilled and shifty that we think many people forget he's a 6'7", 230-pound absolute specimen of a ball player. He's a large, strong guard who's bigger than the majority of the best wing defenders in the NBA. And of course, Kyrie Irving, while being a smaller guard, still has some of the best handles in the NBA. And we think we can all agree that he may be the most skilled NBA player to ever play the game. No one has ever been able to dribble like him, finish like him, and make difficult clutch shots consistently all in one. But what about the rest of the Mavericks roster, you might ask? Well, first they have Tim Hardaway Jr., who's averaging 13 points per game while shooting a solid 35% from 3. He's a good shot creator who can heat up in a heartbeat, and having him as a 3rd or 4th scoring option isn't bad at all. And Christian Wood is having a pretty good year as well. He's averaging 18 points and 8 rebounds while shooting 38% from 3. They are 2 very valuable offensive pieces who can shoot, put the ball on the floor, and Christian Wood and Dwight Powell are good in the pick and roll. On offense, the Mavericks now have a ton of firepower, 2 superstars, 1 borderline all-star in Christian Wood, and a solid player in Tim Hardaway Jr. But there is one problem that we don't think many are thinking about: defense. The Mavericks are 24th in defensive rating and 29th in defensive rebounding, while also being 17th in points allowed in the paint. So an already below average defensive team just traded away their most elite defender in Dorian Finney-Smith. And other than Reggie Bullock, who's a good defender, their starting lineup's defense looks terrible on paper. Luka Doncic, Kyrie, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Christian Wood are all either average or below average defenders. And that is honestly the biggest concern with this move, because we know their offense is going to be great, but that doesn't mean anything come playoff time if you can't play defense. Every elite team in the NBA has a great defense. The Celtics, Bucks, Grizzlies, and Cavaliers are all top defenses, and the Mavericks are nowhere near that right now. Honestly, they're still about 1 or 2 good defenders away from being true title contenders. But on the bright side, they do have decent defensive pieces on the back end of their roster like Josh Green, Maxi Kleber, JaVale McGee, Frank Ntilikina, and Reggie Bullock, bringing it every night on that end of the floor. And when Christian Wood is locked in, he could be a pretty solid defender as well. But they aren't quite elite enough to cause major problems to opposing teams' best stars. But enough of what we think. Who do you think won this trade? Let us know in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.